Thank you. Well, hello and good evening all. My name is Kim Van New Amaragan, and honestly, I'm quite the ball of nerves up here right now. It might be shocking to those who know me, but I'm normally on the sidelines. I'm more of a cheerleader than the person out front. But tonight, I'm up here because it's something more important than my fear of public speaking. It's about my kids and the future. A lot of people up here have brought up a lot of wonderful studies and information. I don't have that. I'm simply a mom. I could reference my younger brother who, even though he was caught with his learning difficulties and disabilities young, teachers didn't have the knowledge, and he's currently in the justice system as we speak. I'm here to talk about my kids, though, as a mom. Rowan is my youngest child, and when at the age of 2, his dad and I were worried about his lack of recognizable words, a quick ask at the doctor's office led us to free screening for hearing and speech issues, and then 3 wonderful years of free in-home speech therapy provided by Manitoba Possible. Now, all in an effort to prepare him for school and the world as a whole. This speech intervention continued through school up until grade 3, where he graduated. It was something he was very proud of. I mean, as a parent, this was great. I had limited things to do. It was put in front of me. It was easy. It was great. It was what I expected. Well, once he got to school, he thrived otherwise. From kindergarten on, though, his English and French grades were coming home as ND, so not demonstrated, or 1 on a 5-point system. And every semester, a week or 2 before report cards were sent home, I would get the obligatory call from his teacher, the reminder they had to tell us if the student's coming home with something less than a 2, and telling me not to worry, though, that Rowan had these not developings and these ones, that he was doing great otherwise, all students come along in their own time, and that, he was doing great. Well, Rowan had a really great rapport with all of his teachers in elementary school, and every one of them had all these wonderful things to say about him, but every single one of them let it slide that he could not read or write at the same level of his peers. Year after year, the gaps got worse. No matter how many questions we asked, we were told not to worry. Yet, before every report card was issued, that call would come, advising us that he was not thriving in the specific subjects that required reading and writing, but overall was doing great. I gotta say, overall, though, his teachers did do great trying to accommodate him without a diagnosis. Finding ways for him to show that he had the knowledge he needed in his head, he was just unable to write it down. This only worked because Rowan was admittedly a teacher's pet, and he loves to learn, and he shows it with every fiber of his being when he's accommodated. But providing accommodations can only go so far if you don't know what you're accommodating for. I asked when my son struggled more than my daughter, 3 years his senior, at basic reading and writing since 1st grade. At first, it was simply attributed to every child and their own timeline. Then I started beating myself up. I was thinking that we hadn't been spending enough time with him, that simply buckling down and reading with him every night would fix whatever this was. I was asking his teachers if I should be worried, and I was told, no, he understands, it's fine, it'll come along with time. Time, it did pass. When we would go to the parent conferences where Rowan would show us his work, there was nothing completed. Paper after paper of written work left undone, half done, or done in a way that you could not read without a cipher. The non-developings and non-displays in the ones continued for English and French. My child coming home crying because another kid would whisper how stupid he was into his ear each time he needed help. Time. Lots of time for him to feel that there is something fundamentally wrong with him. Time where proper support for a disability would have made a world of difference in a young boy's self-confidence and self-worth. Where a school meant to teach the basics to children could have supported his basic need to learn how to read and write. Now, 5th grade, we're given what was referred to as a golden ticket. Now, please let me stress, Rowan's case seems to be an anomaly. Rowan had teaching staff that fell in love with him and forced the issue before middle school. They were able to have a school division psychologist complete a psychological evaluation. The result? My grade 5 child could read at the same level as a kindergarten child. The only reason he was thriving in all subjects other than his English and French at all is because he loved to learn and found ways using context clues to absorb the information the text was trying to provide, and was able to prove to his teachers using methods other than traditional pen and paper tests. My son is incredibly intelligent, and it shows how much harder he's had to work than his peers to complete the same tasks. Picture somebody who needs glasses to see the whiteboard clearly, but has never been told this. All the information they need to complete their task is written on that board, but they're not allowed to get up and see the board more clearly. They can only work with what's in front of them, and they see their classmates completing the same task with ease, while they struggle to understand where to start. This was Rowan's reality. While the diagnosis was a milestone as it provided a label and a rough idea for a way forward, it came at a very awkward time in Rowan's learning. A transition from early years to middle school, a new school, a new teacher, and let's not forget all the other kids experience starting their teenage years. At the beginning of my story, I spoke about when Rowan was 2 and we were concerned about his speech. The solution was so simple and integrated into the schooling, we figured once again, when we asked, now we know what's wrong, what do we do? I anticipated my child would be put into some sort of class especially developed for children with dyslexia to get him up to speed, or that he'd be offered additional tutoring. To be told that nothing would be done other than to provide him with a tablet as an accommodation blew my mind. In reality, where in the 6th grade curriculum, though, could you even have time to teach a child to read and write? This is a skill that should have been mastered long before now. Rowan's middle school career has now been a constant battle back and forth between myself and the school, trying to find the best mix of technology and other resources for Rowan to be successful. Some days, I feel the school is my ally. Other days, it feels like they're my enemy. My family is not well off. However, we did, for a time, pay out of pocket for dyslexia-specific tutoring at a cost of over $600 a month. The difference we saw in the short 6 months we were able to afford it blew my mind. If the screening could have been provided earlier in Rowan's school career, this kind of intervention could have been done long before now, and it could have been done in the classroom to allow my son to have the same basic command of reading and writing as his peers. And did you know they think that dyslexia has a genetic component? Don't ask to see the rough draft of this speech. I used talk-to-text as a tool to accommodate my inability to spell, something that I was mocked and ridiculed for throughout my school career. This also means my grandchildren could very well face the same difficulties with reading and writing my child has. Wouldn't it be a crying shame if my son has to face the same difficulties obtaining help for his children as I do for him, because nobody thought it was important enough now? Bill 225 is simply asking that we make sure each child has equal opportunity to learn and thrive, providing the basic foundation they need to function in society after school. Please pass this bill because basic literacy is a right.
Thank you, Ms. Van Nieuw-Amerongen. We will now go to questions. Are there any questions? Emily Lamoureux.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Say that you shouldn't be on the sidelines. You're incredibly well-spoken and well-articulate, and I hope you consider being upfront and center more often. I want to thank you for speaking to how this legislation could have impacted your own child's experience in school, and for sharing your personal experience and, again, what your family has had to go through to get to where you are today.
Ms. Van Nieuw-Amerongen.
Thank you for that.
Yes, Minister Schmidt.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you very much for your presentation. I didn't get to catch some of it. I had to run out. I just want to apologize to you and to the rest of the presenters, and just to explain, I feel very honored and privileged to be here as the minister responsible, and I want to be able to hear everyone's presentations, but I do have a bill amending the Public Schools Act in the other committee room, so I just wanted to explain that to yourself and the other presenters, that if I do have to leave the room, it's not because I don't find your presentations valuable and important, it's just because I do have responsibilities in another committee room. So thank you very much, and I apologize. I know that my friends here were here listening, and that the bill's sponsor here was listening. So thank you very much. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Ms. Van Nieuw-Amerongen.
I'm good.
Emily Cook.
For coming. I think you've done a really skillful job of identifying what the gaps are in a child's typical journey through the education system when we don't identify learning difficulties early on, and the ways the system as it's currently set up fails to support them. And that's really important for us to know. So thank you.
Ms. Van Nieuw-Amerongen.
I'm currently in, a heated discussion with my school over my son's access to his tablet and whether the classroom teacher understands the IEP that was laid out for him by the division's psychologist. And we've had this same conversation with his teachers each year for 3 years. It would be great to see training more so alongside this bill to make sure that the teachers actually had the skills to make sure that these students weren't just told they're dyslexic and deal with it.
Thank you, Ms. Van Nieuw-Amerongen. Yep, Emily Blaschko.
Hi, I just want to say thank you so much for your presentation. And I think I heard that your children were also learning French.
Yes.
So I was curious, are there particular nuances and experiences that we should know as folks considering this bill for those people navigating learning disabilities in multiple languages?
Ms. Van Nieuw-Amerongen.
Yes, my kids both attend a French immersion school, and what it comes down to is they're going to experience these difficulties no matter which language they learn in. It's a language processing problem, not an English language problem. So I've been told that while my son will if we're able to afford to put him back into private tutoring, will succeed in mastering the English language. For French and other languages, he will most likely always need some sort of electronic assistance unless a similar program is developed and he were to decide to take that course for learning how to spell in another language.
Thank you. Are there any